All right, you guys, we are just going to check to see if the stream is actually working. And if it is, we are going to, and it is. So we are now live on the YouTube channel, our Burn 2 YouTube channel. This is Super Suze here, the host of this live stream for tonight. I hope to have other burners who would like to also help us with live stream. And you'll see our avatars in just a moment. I'm just getting set up. And here we go. All right. We are also, our avatars are live on the channel and viewable, which is great. So we're sitting in this wonderful little spot with these nice chairs. Thank you, Mrs. Mia Wallace, who set this up for me. And we have Nick, also known as Nick Heyming. If I'm correctly pronouncing, you'll help me figure that out and as you introduce yourself. And thanks for coming on to our live stream and helping us meet our Burn 2 community. And do you want to do a little introduction about yourself to start?
Sure, I'm happy to. So this is a virtual version of an art project that we created in real life in 2019 at Burning Man. And Ms. Mia Wallace was so helpful at bringing it here into Burn 2 this year in 2021. My background is I've been a burner since 2006. I was first introduced to the community down in Mississippi after Hurricane Katrina. I met the Burners Without Borders down there while I was doing relief work with Catholic charities. And a year before that, I became a fire spinner out in Thailand after the tsunami. And since then, for about the last 16 years, I've been really committed to exploring volunteer opportunities as well as ways to express myself with fire and other elements. And so I've always been really inspired and excited about places on Playa where people can play. You know, I remember the Shiva Vista stage years back where people from all around the world got together and got to dance and spin fire, and it was a real awesome way for people to come together. And that nexus that it was inspired the Flow Nexus. So in 2019, we brought together different artists from all around the world and thousands of different flow tools and created all these different platforms and balance equipment and a whole like parkour and movement zone for people to explore. And now we have it here virtually, as well as it's set up at my eco village down in San Diego, California.
Oh, that sounds pretty good. So you have an eco village in San Diego, and for sure people are picking up on that. They just heard it too. I did. And I definitely want to finish the conversation with that included. That's for sure. So we'll talk about that in the end if you'd like, 'cause I'd like to hear more about your eco village. I think that sounds pretty interesting. And let's start out with talking about flow tools and flow arts, flow movement. Why is that important? What does it do for us?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Flow is an interesting term. It comes from a guy, Gregor Csikszentmihalyi, who wrote a book called Flow back in the 80s that talked about peak human experiences and how there's a way that you can get into a flow state where time kind of dissolves away and you get to experience the world in a really awesome place of extremely high capacity where your ability to do things is increased sometimes 40 fold and you get to really express yourself in pretty profound and fun ways. And so it oftentimes is something that people only get to experience a few times in their life, but it's actually hardwired into everybody to be able to access these flow states. And now flow arts is a discipline, a branch of movement disciplines that include everything from fire spinning to hula hooping to glow sticking to aerial acrobatics. And the thing that makes these flow arts is that they're ways that you can actually access these flow states through a fun physical activity. And so people who do them regularly constantly have to push themselves to find like new levels of expression and fun that they can do with them. And that act of constantly pushing yourself is what allows you to access those flow states. And so
Pushing
it's a
yourself.
really yes,
Interesting. So it's
exactly.
not about like doing the repetitive movement so that you getting into a zone of like almost meditative, physical meditative movement. The act of pushing yourself is what is the benefit, what puts you into a state
Yes.
of, oh,
When Csikszentmihalyi wrote his book, he talked about the challenge to skill ratio. And if you try
oh,
to do things that your skill is greater than the challenge, then you get bored. And if you try to do things where the challenge is greater than your skill, then you get frustrated. And so finding that sweet spot is the way to get into the flow state. And it's a moving target. The same thing that got you there a year ago shouldn't still get you there, because ideally, at a certain point, that flow state becomes your steady state. And so it's all about continuing to push yourself, and ideally finding other people that are also active in the same discipline that you are, and they can show you new things that you couldn't do, so that you have new goals for yourself.
oh, okay. I'm really getting what you're saying. I do understand that. So you described it so well. I want to ask about center camp because we're used to center camp being a place where we can go and see stuff happening that might be something like what you're talking about. Is it something different, or
You know, center camp is a place a lot of people like to get together and do things like acro yoga and
yes,
dance, and sometimes you'll hear a monkey chant. And I think a lot of the things people do at center camp would be considered flow arts.
yes,
It's a
okay,
very broad term that really just describes these movement disciplines that allow people to express themselves, and really use your whole body. And so, you know, you talked about doing the same thing over and over, which, you know, people like jugglers have to practice over and over and over and over again. And you know, that's not necessarily the same as a flow state, but when they get together and they start improvising with each other, and having that kind of meeting of the mind, then even the disciplines where you have to grind like that and practice a lot can still access that ecstatic state of flow.
okay. Yeah, I see that you've got on the back of each of these display stands or platforms are descriptions about each of the movements that our avatars will be practicing. And we could literally stand up and watch our avatars and replicate
If I
them if we wanted to, which I think is
if I
pretty
could
neat.
interrupt here,
Yes.
the platforms have a base, and then there's a portion that has the textile
Yes.
image, and then on the back of that has a description of that textile image and offering some examples of how a flow movement could fit it. So
Mm-hmm.
Nick would be best at describing each one of those, and I could be on each base if we could go along the way.
That would be that'd be great. So we
Okay.
can see how there's Tai
Right
Chi,
now I'm over there and I'm on the yellow base.
there's capoeira, I'll go, I actually have been panning over at you for some time. So we'll
Oh,
look at that some more. And there's some martial arts from the Pacific Islands and so
oops.
on. So do you want to describe the base that you're on?
I think Nick will. I'm on the green base, Nick, with the now moved over to I'll go over to the blue base. I'm on the dojo flow side. I'll start at the blue base here.
Sure. This is the
Awesome.
one, Da Vinci.
Yeah. So each of these on this side represent basic geometries of movement. And so you can see in the tapestries that there
Oh,
are these kind of
cool.
looped flowers. And so the one that she's on represents the five-sided. It's a pentahedron, or it's we mapped this design with spin science that they use to map out how an object spins around another object
I understand
over
what
the
you're
Vitruvian.
saying. Yeah, the law of physics. Like, for example, if you have a pendulum and you have it move in a certain direction and how it flows until it ceases, that's what it
Exactly,
reminds me of.
exactly. Or if you've ever done a spirograph before,
Well, this
you
is
know
all
those like,
sacred geometry, isn't it?
absolutely. But I when I was looking at the Vitruvian Man, which I really wanted to incorporate in this because it's such a beautiful depiction of like a human body in motion. All I found was like people trying to put these six-sided images like the flower of life over it and that sort of thing. And I thought it really actually was conveying to me a much more pentagonal or five-sided motion.
Mm-hmm.
So we put this cool pentahedron pentaketra over it with the pentagon in the middle, and it's to imply kind of full extension, like cartwheel motion. If you could see the pentagon behind him is actually rotated. The artist we worked with on this Ethos de Leon did that and actually used different shading of the pentagon so that it looks like he's cartwheeling. And
Research.
so it's that same kind of cartwheel or windmill motion that you see oftentimes in many different movement forms.
Well, research has shown that scientifically, physical exercise does reduce depression and anxiety. In a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people experience that stress reduction and anxiety and depression. Um, uh, Issues around depression go get less or even go away with physical exercise. And just based upon your experience, because I'm sure that you do practice some of this regularly, how do you feel about your health and even your mental health as you have learned how to use this exercise to stay healthy?
Well, I actually learned it while I was doing disaster relief work. And I noticed that the people that had movement practices had much lower levels of PTSD and trauma than the ones who would just kind of sit and stew inside these traumatic experiences that they'd have. And
Mm.
the incidence of burnout among people that used other coping mechanisms like alcohol or drugs was a lot higher than among people that were using physical activity as their way of coping with the stress
That's
of the
like a
environment.
research, or just like something that you noticed yourself and observed.
I noticed it myself, but I've
That's
also
a good
done
research
research on it
project.
since
Yeah.
then.
Oh, you have.
There's a book
Okay.
called "The Body Keeps the Score" that talks a lot about how people hold trauma in their bodies, and that somatic activity, like flow arts, can be a great way to move through the trauma.
uh, Research has shown that some people who share their trauma as much as they want or as little as they want, right soon after they've had it, like firefighters, for example, if you were to ask them, what happened to you today at that fire? And you were to take a firehouse and provide that opportunity to share, express, that and then you have another firehouse, same fire situation, and they don't have that opportunity to debrief their experience of that day. The firehouse with less debrief or no debrief has higher rates of PTSD. But the thing
Well, I
about
think
that
part
is, not everybody is an extrovert. Not everyone is a verbal expressive person. So for those who are preferred to not verbalize for whatever reason like that, this could be an alternative, couldn't it?
absolutely. And I think part of the reason why that happens is when you just have your brain to process stuff, your prefrontal cortex in particular, the monkey mind, you can create these negative feedback loops that you can hardwire by overly dwelling on them. One of the things about a flow state is it actually turns off your prefrontal cortex, and so you kind of get a moment of respite from your inner demons and those thoughts that can plague you, and you're really fully in the present moment when you're there. And so it can be a really healthy thing if you find yourself being plagued by the trauma of a particular event.
Very cool. And this is your first virtual burn with Burn 2, is that correct?
Actually, Mia, I think showed me around. Was it last year or the year before, Mia? And I had been out here once before with my
Okay.
friend Ebo.
Okay. What'd you think about the whole experience? What was that like for you um, to be? Uh, it's a 2D, not a 3D. It's a flat screen that you're looking at. But do you feel like that because you can walk around and you can move in and out and around the objects, does it feel 3D to you? And what would you describe it? How would you describe this to your friends who are curious?
Well, I
Maybe
I
someone
think
who
it's
hasn't
great
seen
that it
this.
gives more accessibility to an event that is um, pretty difficult to reach for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I think it's great. And, if I was to describe it to my friends, and I have because I was letting people know about this whole project, um, I feel like what this does is it allows anybody to be able to participate. And
As
while
long as you have
it's
the internet.
as long as you have the internet, yeah, and the program.
Yeah.
So I think that's really awesome, and I also think it gives people a chance to like prototype art projects that they may want to actually build in real life or create
Prototype
stuff
art projects. Yes.
that you
And
couldn't actually build in real life.
it's a first step to experiencing Flow Nexus before, you know, making it to one of your actual, like, if you bring it to the burn again or wherever you set it up again. It just gets people thinking about it too and learning about it.
I'm sure
Having it here in the virtual world.
there's opportunities in local communities for Tai Chi, for capoeira, for ballet, for flow dance, expression of various modalities, shall we say. Probably within reach of most communities, if not on the internet, and then you can just watch and do it in your own living room, just like you're watching an aerobics exercise kind of thing, video. So yeah. But it's asking us to look at body movement as a form of healing. It's different than like saying, "Oh, we're going to lose weight and exercise and aerobics, and it's good for our hearts." It's actually good for our mental health as well. And I never really thought of it. I mean, I have thought of it that way. But and you think about the history of these different displays, this kind of thing is found all over the world and throughout history, and it's kind of bringing it back to the forefront for me.
Yeah, and having the guidance, can you hear me? Yeah. Having the guidance of having 12 bases with the textiles or the tapestries connections, and just like helping you through it. Both sides, having the dojo side and the martial arts side, it's a whole kind of a kit, I guess, to help you in a way too. So you have sort of a base where to start with the healing with Flow.
Now there's a Flow Tools box. What's inside the box?
We go to the martial side. Oh, spinning tools for when you are on the bases. On the dojo side, the Flow side that we were just on, for spinning fire wands. And then maybe you wouldn't use them so much, right, on this side, Nick. And in the future, I will add to our Flow Tools box use tools for the martial side.
Yeah, you can use the tools on either side, really.
Okay.
And in the physical version of this, we had a sword rack next to every single platform that was painted the same color as it, and it had tools of the same color of every different type. So swords, poi, hoops, stabs, flags, ribbons, you name it. And so I love that Mia brought, examples of many of those here and made them accessible to people so they could have an opportunity to find the one that's really their jam.
You can almost make Mia's, I'm not sure if your Black Rock Cine art installation, Flow Nexus, looks kind of like this same thing with the pictures on the backdrop and everything.
Exactly like this, except it doesn't have the writing on the back of each tapestry.
Which I wish we had in real life, to be honest.
Oh.
I feel like this one's actually better in that regard because a lot of people didn't know what to do with it.
Oh,
I like that. You can probably do that and with some spray paint and some and some what do you call it?
Stencils.
Stencils. Yeah, some stencils.
Yeah, well, they actually did paint these bases at Black Rock City, or before they took it, or maybe they wouldn't have done it there, or maybe you did. But the bases we're standing on are not the same as the tapestries, obviously. Some of the bases you painted, right, Nick?
Exactly. Yeah. Everyone, we had 8-foot bases for each platform, and then around a 6-foot tapestry for each one, and they are not the same. We specifically chose patterns that oftentimes mirrored humans similar to the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors of Alex Gray.
I'm familiar. I would love to see that art installation at Burn too. Oh my goodness.
I actually camped with him in 2019 and was able to share with him about this project. Versus the patterns on the floor are actually more tied to footwork and oftentimes don't have the same characters on them that you would have on the tapestries.
Can you talk about the animal, five animals? What was this tapestry?
Sure. Yeah, each of these have a story to them, and I'd be happy to share. So this one I made with Painted Hill, who's an amazing artist. Used to be based out of San Diego. I think she's up in Portland now. But we really wanted to do honor to all these different animal style forms from around the world. And when we started looking into them, it became really difficult to try to see, well, there's a bunch of different ones. There's the tiger and crane and monkey and mantis style. Then there's another one that has tiger and leopard. There's another that has dragon. Then there's some that have, eagles and
That
horses,
is
and
a
deer and
big
snakes.
trip. That is so trippy. Oh my gosh, it's a layer of different animals that makes a layer of another animal within the layer. Oh, it's fantastic.
So here's what we did. We woke up and we were busily making this bagua one that's opposite, the white and black one with the yin yang symbol on it.
Mm-hmm.
And we were reading about the bagua, and there's a whole way of like divination with it where you read yarrow sticks. And so we actually did that. We made yarrow tea every morning. We tried to read the yarrow sticks, and then we'd pull from an animal's deck, which had all these different animals in it. And whatever animals we pulled, for 5 minutes each animal, we would try to make a yoga for that animal where we would move like that animal, whether it was a unicorn or a beaver or a zebra or a dragon or a sea serpent. We tried to, and without even anthropomorphizing them, by actually trying to move as much as we could like the animal. So we did that for 45 minutes every morning for 2 weeks straight. And then at the end of that, Hill got a really bad migraine. And then she didn't come back for a week. And then when she came back, she had painted this mandala. And she had incorporated the 5 animal styles. You can see there's 5 circles. But then we also found a bunch of 8 animal styles. So she put 8 little circles around that. And then there was all these zodiacs with 12 animals. So she put 5, 8, and 12 geometries somehow reconciled into this one beautiful mandala. And then she overlaid all these different animals, from foxes to snakes to dragons to swans and eagles and condors and tigers and jaguars and monkeys and gibbons and horses and bulls. I mean, there's so many different in there.
Yeah. I don't see the bull.
Really
where's the bull?
The bottom, you can see the horns.
Oh yeah,
The bottom
at the bottom. Oh yeah. Okay, I get that.
with the nose, with the bull. I think the red thing is in the bull's nose.
Right. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so it was pretty awesome. I was blown away. I'm actually sitting next to the original. The original is only like about a foot by a foot across, but she did it in such high detail. We blew it up and put it onto this tapestry.
Oh, very cool. I'm going to pan far back to see the whole camp from afar, so we can see the layout of the shade structure, the trailer, the little gypsy caravan, and then Danger Ranger's famous Black Rock Rangers. Although this
Red
one's
Death.
the Red Death. Although this one's a little bit different. It doesn't have the flames on the side, so
Oh, okay.
yeah. Let me see. Well, doesn't matter.
And then over the years, with Nick's approval, which he said that's awesome, is I'd like to, this will be a reoccurring installation at Burn to October Burn, and
Sure.
possibly at some Burners Without Borders Second Life things
Yeah.
that we are involved in. And it'll be tweaked and edited to be even more exact, like his real life one. Like the tent above us actually is not exactly like the shade structure he uses, which I really want to get to be changed.
I'm looking at photographs on the side of the gypsy caravan, and if that's an appropriate term, maybe I'm not supposed to be saying that, but that's what it reminds me of.
It was sort of his. It's the
but
tool
there's
shed.
photographs. Yeah, there's some photographs of Black Rock installations. So this, I can see what you're saying. The shade structure is in those photographs.
So that image there is the 12 bases part of Flow Nexus. Is that what you're looking at?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that. That image definitely can help you see how it looked like when it was on the playa.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I feel like is worth mentioning. I would love to actually keep working with you on this, Mia, and then maybe even do some motion capture.
Yeah.
So we can, really get the types of movements that you would do on these. Like
the thing is, Nick, is like I have my inventory of animations, and then I've gone into the marketplace of animations, and it's a lot of hours to do. And so since, it took hours to build this in the first place, that is something that's going to be ongoing with you to get the right movements to the exact movements that would be great for the bases.
Well, I'm wondering if anyone's listening.
You did a great job, though.
What? Oh,
if anyone's
Thank
listening, who is into mocap, motion capture technology, if anyone would like to collab, contact Mrs. Mia Wallace in Second Life. Yeah.
If anybody knows how to edit that kind of stuff, I actually have access to a huge motion capture rig here in San Diego. But I haven't had really the capacity to know what to do with it once I do actually get all that data.
Okay. I don't know.
Get the data. So what you'll do is do the motion capturing, and then someone has to do the rendering and the scripting. Yeah. Well, that could be a whole project. That sounds interesting for a lot of people. You might just find someone
cool.
who
I have access to some really amazing martial artists and flow artists that are excited about doing something with this project. And like I said, my friend has this huge motion capture rig down here, and we're kind of just waiting for the right opportunity to do something with it.
Okay, well, I guess I'll
Very
just
engaging.
try and get some connections here in Second Life and see how they, if someone captures it with your motion capture, what's the next steps to get it into an animation to here. So
exactly.
Yes.
And then also, I just met with I'm a teacher, a social sciences teacher at a local middle school here in San Diego, and I just met with a bunch of kids from the school, and we're going to be making more of these designs over the next few months. So they're super excited about it. But we're going to be making murals probably based on like Aztec or Mayan designs, as well as pretty much whatever the kids are into. I'm having them do a research project for it, and then we're going to be making additional ones of these, and even setting up the dojo on campus. So I'm pretty excited about that the dojo is continuing to live on.
Yeah,
the dojo on a middle school campus. Very cool. Yeah. So what's happening in San Diego locally? Sorry, go ahead, Mia.
Coming soon to Super Suze's campus. But anyway.
Let me hear about what's happening in San Diego. More about that. You've got a community that you're involved in. What can you tell us about your community? What's it called? How did it start? How's it developing? What's it like to start out building a community for those who are thinking about doing something similar? Sorry about the loaded questions, but I'm really interested.
I'm happy to share about this, you know, and in many ways, we created the Flow Nexus so that we could share some of what it's like living in community with the world at large. You know, we made kind of like a piece of it that we can take out and
it's
and
a traveling art show because it's been in more than Black Rock City, from what I understand. It's been in other events as well.
Yeah, it's been at Catharsis in Washington, D.C. It's been at Utopia in San Diego. Versions of it have been even down in Mexico. So, you know, we're always looking at ways that we can collaborate and share this art with people. But you asked about my community. So I live at a place called the Emerald Village, which is a 9-acre intentional community that was founded back in 2011 by 10 burners. We actually met mostly through the underground festival scene and Burning Man. And we would have these conversations around a campfire, not dissimilar from this right now, where, you know, we'd be at this amazing event and say, hey, you know, why can't we do this all the time? Why does it just have to be on weekends? Why do we have to pack everything up and put it in storage? You know, what if we just lived like this? And those conversations kept happening. And, you know, most people that would have them weren't super serious about it, but some people really were. And eventually those people kept having that conversation, and we decided to start putting our money and our time and our effort where our mouths were. And so 10 of us got together and we bought 9 acres. You know, we each kind of anteed up, I think 10 grand, and found a beautiful property that had been, you know, kind of a bed and breakfast for the last 50 years that was owned by this publicist lady. And it had a pool house on it and 4 houses and, you know, 200 old growth trees and 2 creeks and a 200-year-old wisteria tree. And we just kind of fell in love with the place and decided, hey, this is a place we can raise our kids together. And so my wife and I were actually pregnant at the time. We've since had our son, and he's 10 years old now and lives here on the land with us. And it's been challenging at times. We just had four of our founders move up north to Oregon to a 160-acre property that they bought.
Mm.
And so, we've been going through all the challenges that come with having some of your core members move away. But we've those of us who remain have rededicated us to this project, and we're doing a master plan right now where we've hired an architect and are really going over all the old infrastructure and asking ourselves the question, we spent 10 years here making it ideal for ourselves. What if we spent 10 years here making it in the most service to the greater community? Mm-hmm. And so we're trying to make it more and more hospitable and useful for non-resident members to be able to come here and access the makerspace and access the dojo and access the gym and access the pool and the sauna and all of our healing spaces. We've got labyrinths and food forests and creeks and all these lovely amenities.
Just want to interject for just a second. Now, there's a little bit of tippy tapping going on the table, and if I just want to let you know, it's being
tippy tapping.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's passion coming through.
Yeah,
you're flowing the fingies.
Don't want to ruin your flow there. Keep going.
Sorry. Yeah, well, I was just saying, we've got a lot of awesome stuff going on here, and so we're looking at how to make it more accessible to more people, and inviting in the greater community so that they can come and build and grow with us.
It sounds amazing, Nick.
Yes, it does.
I want to come.
It's an intentional community. I love it, and there's we building a community here in Burn2, and we are very tight. We have a weekly planning meeting, two of them actually, 2 planning meetings all year long. And so we're pretty interactive with each other on a weekly basis. And I know that there's a lot of challenges to that. As people come and go out of a community, I get that. And so I commend you for having a 10-year relationship with your community and still going, and maybe not as strong. And, it's not going to be a linear kind of thing that happens, but it sounds like you've got a great buildup of community. What kinds of things do you do there that I see there's, when I was looking at a little bit of that online, there's workshops and learning opportunities at the Emerald Village. So if we wanted to look it up, we just Google the Emerald Village without saying any links. If we wanted to go search for it ourselves and be self-sufficient and go find it, we would search the Emerald Village, San Diego. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, that's you'll find it pretty quickly with that kind of a search. And in the past, we used to throw little mini festivals, and we had flow festivals there. We had the Manipulation Festival 3 or 4 years. Pyrotrania was kind of a flow and motivational speaking event that we've done many times. We've had homesteading academies teaching people jarring, pickling, canning, and preserving. We've done countless composting and gardening workshops, and yeah, we're kind of building out our maker spaces and trying to ask the question, how can we make this place more useful to people? And we also in the past have created like much of the Flow Nexus was created in this place called the Station, which was this huge warehouse down in Carlsbad. Which is no longer a thing, but we're considering building something like that here because there's always a need for art spaces. There's always a need for places people can get together and collaborate. And so, right now we don't have a ton of indoor space here. It's mostly outdoors, but it is really lovely, and we're just trying to find ways that we can share it.
There's a lot of makerspace kind of stuff going on in the outdoors. So, yeah.
Sometimes it's like we have an embarrassment of riches to the point where we've got piles of stuff just around that we're trying to figure out what to do with.
Stuff like in other words, parts and objects that can be assembled and used into making art. Is that what we're talking about?
exactly, like big piles of materials and tools and all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to use it or lose it.
Use it
Mhm.
or lose it. That's so true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it literally will just rust away.
So if someone is in the area of San Diego and is interested in finding out
Not
about,
unlike the body. If you don't use it, you lose it. You know, the cobwebs build up. You got to keep the flow.
that's right. Yeah. So if they wanted to
Exactly.
get use of some of this stuff and somehow use the land and maybe help create some new workshops or new learning offerings, they would contact you through that website, I would imagine.
Yeah, contact me or one of the other people that live here. We're constantly having events. I think we've got a music event coming up soon. We're having some kind of like a Roman toga party. Um, we've always got stuff coming down the pike, and we have a newsletter on our website that we send out usually every month or two. That
Mm.
is a way to find out about what's going on. Plus, I'll periodically hold like Burners Without Borders meetups. I'm one of the regional leads for San Diego,
Mm-hmm.
and so whenever there's fires or last Christmas we all went down to Mexico and gave away toys and clothes and stuff. So a lot of that stuff gets organized at the Emerald Village as well.
Okay, great. It's a lot going on there. A lot going on. And I thank you so much for collaborating with us. We've learned a lot, and thank you for that. Thanks, Mia, for suggesting that we have this discussion. It was really good. And Mia, just to give a little bit about yourself, you've been in Burn 2 longer than myself. I think you and I started out working in comms, and eventually we were doing comms for a while together, and still work in the comms department together. And you've come to my house, and we've had a great weekend once. And remember that? That
Yeah,
was I don't. That was a long time ago, but we
we
had a
burned
great
at
great
Black Rock
weekend.
City. I
We
haven't
yeah
have met Nick yet, but it'll happen.
yeah
2022.
Well,
yeah.
we met through Burners Without Borders, right?
Um, Probably yes.
Yeah.
Very
So we've
cool. I've been panning the playa since we've been talking. Part of the discussion, I've been panning the art installations and camps in the sim. There's some really amazing art on this particular sim that you guys are in. Have you had a chance, Nick, to go take a walk around? Because there's some amazing art installations to go check
a
out.
little bit. Mia took me around to some that she worked on,
Oh, cool.
um,
Yeah.
and I've had a chance to just kind of stroll along while I was showing my wife and son.
Okay,
And
cool.
yeah, it's just so cool in here. All the creativity of
We
people.
have to get you here for the man burn. It happens 2 times on Saturday, and then the temple burns 2 times on Sunday. So you're
That's
gonna
right.
try to do that
I
this
would love to.
Saturday, 12 noon and 6 p.m.
Thanks for that plug.
Thank
That's good. And yeah, I think this is a good place to stop and
you,
enjoy
Super
the playa,
Suits. It was
everybody.
amazing. Thank you
Yeah,
so much, Nicholas, and everyone watching and listening.
yeah.
Thanks,
Thank
Suzanne.
you. All right, you guys. I'm gonna end the stream, and it's public. You can find it if you want to find it. You go to the uh, Burn Two YouTube channel, and I've
Thank you.
actually have a quite a few other conversations that I've recorded over the week. So you can find some more like this too. All right, you guys, have a great time in the playa. Now that you're here, you can go check out a couple things before you go if you can. And if not, we'll see you on Saturday, hopefully, at the Burns. All right, you guys, have
Sounds
a
good.
good
Absolutely.
night.
Happy burn.
Thanks so much.
Okay, so I've ended.